All right, y'all, you tuned into a preview of LSU versus Alabama taking place in Tuscaloosa. Right now, Alabama currently ranked number 4 in the AP. We're going to be waiting for the AP rankings to come out and soon enough the CFP rankings. But giving you a preview of this game, 10.5-point spread, Bama coming off of a bye. Hunter, what are you thinking?
It's an interesting game. It's a game, going into the season, going to be a big one for Alabama. I don't think that that's really gone away. I think it's still a big game for Alabama. The LSU shakeup has potentially made this more of a dangerous game, really. And we hear there's two sides to this. We talked briefly last week on interim coaches when we talked Georgia, Florida. Scary topic because you don't know who you're playing against. They haven't necessarily been successful in winning their opening games this year. UCLA lost their first game under interim. Penn State lost their first game under interim. Florida, Arkansas, Virginia Tech, I think, was the only one who did win. It was against Wofford. But this has been a full overhaul for LSU.
Yeah.
Frank Wilson now taking over. He has head coach experience. UTSA, McNeese State, that could play into this game is having a guy with experience instead of an interim taking over who doesn't have that.
Yeah, and we talked about it kind of off camera, like the interim experience and the head coaching experience and his ability to relate to the players. Like, he's recruited guys from a 1-star to 2-star to 3-star level at UTSA and McNeese State. A lot of those guys aren't getting stars from the rivals and the 24/7, but a lot of those guys have played with players like the guys on LSU. And LSU has been proven to get the most out of their players. They've gotten the most out of AJ Hossey, former Syracuse transfer, Houston transfer. They've gotten the most out of Mansour Delane. I was going to mess up his name there. Virginia Tech transfer, all ACC cornerback last year. This defense is still really dangerous, and a guy like Fran Wilson can get the most out of these guys when they're looking at what's at stake for the rest of the season and being able to play spoiler or being able to make a bowl game or, depending on how things shake up, potentially find themselves in the top 5 in the SEC and potentially earning a playoff spot.
Absolutely. And Alabama right now is kind of in the driver's seat of their rest of their season. They've played great up to this point in the year after week 1. Everything I see about Alabama, they'll post like the game stretch and they'll leave week 1 off because it's almost not the same team. So, right. But you have this team, they're in the driver's seat. They're undefeated in SEC play. They see Atlanta. They can see it in the distance. They're ready to get there. But they have to go through this team. And a lot of things that are going right for Alabama could potentially be challenged here. I want to talk a little bit. I keep staying on the coaching subject. What people talk about Alabama struggling with a lot is the running defense. You play this LSU team that can't necessarily run that well. They're 127th nationally in run play percentage, which is where I think that maybe this changes because I don't think that they're a bad running team. We talked highly on the season on Caden Durham coming in. I was excited about Harlan Berry, the freshman. And now your new OC in this was formerly tight end coach and worked as a run game coordinator. So you bring in new guys who maybe are going to want to push the envelope a little bit when it comes to running the ball. So that could play in. They know how Alabama's defended against that. So we'll see if the play calling changes a little bit here to get those guys more involved.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a major component when it comes to the play calling. You talked about his tight end coach experience. Getting the running game established is going to allow them to get more plays open for Trey'Dez Green in this game. And he's been kind of proven to be that safety blanket when playing some of these games. It hasn't always resulted in wins, but, he played a key role in the Vanderbilt game. He played a key role in some of these other games this season where he was major, allowing LSU to win some of those games.
Great tight end. I mean, one of the best tight ends in the conference. I say that about so many different tight ends in the conference, with whether it's, Stowers or Daquan Wright with Ole Miss and, talking about the myriad of tight ends that Georgia has. But Trey'Dez Green, huge component of this team. And, one of the things I want to, credit Alabama on here is the statistical run struggles. That it's statistical there, but it's really because it's the only thing that you can do against them.
And it was really only a couple games. I think at one point when we talked about it, it was the Florida State game, it was the Georgia game, and a little bit in the Vanderbilt game. Those were the 3 games. And the Vanderbilt running performance was kind of an output of 2 big runs.
Missouri, one of the best. They played run heavy teams. They played Missouri. They were run heavy, and they shut them out Hardy down for as much as you probably could. Vanderbilt, one big play there at the beginning, and then a couple throughout. South Carolina, not a great running team statistically in the SEC, but they have great running potential that was shut down at times. I'd say Georgia's the only one really who got it over on them in SEC play. But they're shutting down the pass game. 8th fewest yards per game in the nation, second in the SEC, 163. So for LSU, if they don't get the run game going, then they're probably not going to have anything going, because the pass game hasn't necessarily been stellar either. So I think that the run game has to be a piece for LSU, or Alabama could shut down the entire offense.
It's definitely a possibility. And it's something that, it's weird to see for LSU. We've gotten used to them having an offensive brand. I know growing up for me, LSU was always a defensive school outside of like Leonard Fournette. They had the Zach Mettenbergers, they had the Jordan Jefferson, Justin Jefferson's brother, who played at quarterback there back in the day. I think Bama won that championship, but we don't have to go there per se. For Alabama, Ty Simpson kind of rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
For them to win, they got to score more points, and it's going to come down onto Ty Simpson's shoulders. Thoughts for him against this secondary?
You're playing a good secondary. The thing I've harped on it week over week, and it's rang true every week, is that there's too many weapons on Alabama for a team to guard. Mansour Delane, great. I mean, probably the best defensive back in the country. I'll go out and say it, number one best defensive back in the country. He can only guard one guy at a time.
Yeah.
AJ Halsey's a good player. PJ Woodland, Cooley, they're great DBs, but they're more susceptible to letting something up. Alabama has too many guys.
You locked down Jeremy Bernard with him. Ryan Williams hasn't necessarily had to his own standards, his best season.
Sure, but you got Isaiah Horton out there. You got Lottie Brooks. You got, Cuevas has been playing great out of the tight end spot. They've been getting the backs involved in the pass game. I think this could be a game also where the running backs start to break loose a little bit more for Alabama, which hasn't necessarily been a part of a game. Ty Simpson, he's second in the SEC in passing yards and doesn't have a single receiver in the top 10. That's because everybody eats. It's Thanksgiving table. Everybody eats, and make a plate. I think this is a game where they're all going to get involved.
And I think he's second behind, Joey Aguilar. When I want to say they played the same amount of games, but obviously Ty didn't play this past week, and he's still second in the SEC in passing yards. And to your point, everyone is able to eat. And we started the season off thinking that everybody on LSU would be able to eat. And you talked about their stats and where they rank on the season passing yards wise. I think when I think about that and keys to the game, LSU is capable of slowing down this Alabama offense. I don't know if they're going to be able to score to take a lead on this Alabama defense. Like, I could see them stopping Alabama. Like, say there's like 7 drives in the first half. They stop them 4 out of 7. Just 3 out of 7, 4 out of 7. I don't know if LSU can score on 2 out of 7. I don't know if they can sustain drives to even get. They need touchdowns. They don't need field goals. I don't know if they can get to the red zone and score touchdowns. And that's kind of been the reason why you win a game 20-10 to Florida when you've gotten 5 interceptions.
And I think knowing how Alabama's been increasing their pass rush, has been improving on tackling, and some of the struggles that maybe LSU's been seeing on third down, you combine that, Alabama has a lot of opportunities to have good field position in this game. Putting LSU back, finding themselves with a little bit shorter fields, winning that field possession or field position game in this, making LSU have to work even harder for it.
Yeah.
Alabama does allow opportunities for soft stops to be attacked. It requires time in pocket, which hasn't necessarily been LSU's strong point. They've let up a little bit as far as that goes. The running hasn't necessarily been there. So we'll see if they have the opportunity to attack some of these soft spots in the Alabama defense. They have great weapons across the receivers, the running backs, the tight ends. To me, it's another game with Alabama where I don't see the rosters matching up, and especially a night game in Tuscaloosa. I mean, we saw them put belt to ass last year in Death Valley. So now they're playing a night game in Tuscaloosa, same quarterback. It's Nussmeier again. Defense looks even more improved. I don't see Alabama losing this game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I see an improved performance against for LSU's offense to the detriment of Alabama's defense. And so, I see 35-21 Alabama, but I'm impressed with LSU being able to score 21 points. I think this game is more about what Bama has built since week 1. And to your point, we don't talk about week 1. We shouldn't, right? Florida State's not the same team. Alabama's not the same team. One team is talking about firing their coach. The other team, we haven't heard a rumor about Kalen DeBoer being on the hot seat in weeks. So why would we focus on something that is not relevant to me at this point?
Yeah, and when we do our power rankings and stuff, it's kind of looking at who this team is right now. That was a team coming off of, basically getting game planned against for 7 months straight with Florida State. It's a loss. It counts. It matters. It might matter down the stretch. Alabama still has to play this game. They got to play Oklahoma. They got to play Auburn. That week 1 loss could come back to bite them. But I think this is a win for Alabama. I got 30-16. I think it's going to be
Okay.
13-10 at half. I think that Alabama will be up 3 at half, 13-10, before getting a little bit more high-powered offensively, 2 touchdowns and a field goal there.
There's probably something you could
So,
place a bet on for that, right? 13-10.
yeah.
You could do like under 24 points in the first half or something like that.
I can get a first half exact. I might put a first
Yeah.
half exact score down.
Okay.
13-10 on Alabama. I mean, I could see it going that way.
All right, we'll have to see here. And so, a lot for Alabama left on the line this season here. We talked a little bit about what LSU could potentially be looking to accomplish, obviously deeper in the SEC standings. But for Alabama, fun home schedule coming up here. Like you said, you talked
Yeah.
about they're playing Oklahoma at home. Obviously lost that game last year in Norman. And then the Auburn game, is that in
It's going to
Alabama
be
as
at
well?
Jordan Hare. It's going to
It's
be
going
at
to be at
Jordan
Jordan
Hare.
Hare. So that's another one that's going to
Scary.
be scary Jordan. So scary Jordan Hare, but got to take it 1 week at a time. Last year, this team was, kind of looking ahead, and I think it kind of bit them in the ass when it came to Oklahoma and what they thought they were going. And I don't think they had that problem this year, though. So we'll
Nope.
see. Hunter, any last thoughts and wrapping them up? Go ahead and hit that
No.
subscribe button as usual. But any other thoughts?
Ty Simpson for Heisman. He deserves it
Okay,
over Julian Sayin
Heisman.
and Mendoza. Heisman. Lock it in. Place your bets now, because there's a little bit of a spike with Julian Sayin after this weekend, a little bit of a spike with Mendoza because they kept him in their stat padding. Get your Ty Simpson bets in now for Heisman because he's got it. I'm calling it now.
Okay, I would give him heavy consideration based upon what I believe to be better competition, but it's very hard to deny the stats that Julian Sayin and Mendoza have been putting up and what Indiana's been doing. I think they deserve it in some capacity, but we want to know what y'all think. Heisman, Alabama football, LSU football, this game in particular, and what's going to be happening going forward in the SEC. I'm Randall Dett Jr. I got Hunter Ziesman here as always. Game previews, game recaps, special segments, power rankings. Tune into those, and if there's anything else you want to see from us, let us know. And as always, thank you for watching.